How are you doing on a Monday? Been a snowy one here. In fact, I just got in literally from shoveling snow. So it's a beautiful day, and I hope it is wherever this day finds you. Um, so, how's it going? How was your weekend, everyone? Did you enjoy it? Was it relaxing? Was it fulfilling? Was it the weekend or was it the strong beginning? Isn't it odd how we play these words? Weekend. Boy, that just invoked a thought that well, hello, everyone. Hey, Franny, how are you doing? Caroline, how are you doing? Got you on the list, my dear. Valerie, how are you doing? Starseed, good to see you. Thank you. So good to see so many of you. Let me just invoke favor upon all of you. Nothing missing, nothing broken, and that which has been stolen from you be returned to you sevenfold, and may you have full restoration. You know, restoration sometimes can take a process. Sometimes it takes us a long time to lose things. And when we're seeking that restoration in our lives, uh, sometimes it can happen quickly, most often not. But you keep steady the course. You keep on speaking that, and I will assure you it will come to pass in your life. So, hey, how is everyone? Sarah Kay, good to see you. Hey, Kindred Spirit, how are you? Ruth, good to see you, my dear. So let me get a chance, and I'm doing two things here at the same time. Yeah, it's like reading this. So I'm going to spend most of this hour dealing with the subject matter, the B'nai Elohim. I had a wonderful weekend. I had a great hour yesterday with Jeff Doherty. I'll check it out over in the show. Not your normal Sunday morning. And so I finished a book in literally 2 days. So snowy Denver, exactly, Gilbert. I'm seeing some of that. When you take your eyes off the road, it's like everyone in the back is starting to get that vertical thing. I remember, oh boy, this was back in the 80s when the L-1011s were still flying, and it was on TWA. Anyway, we're landing into Las Vegas, and they were in the springtime. It can really get these windstorms, and I'll never forget that L-1011 landing. And we were in the back, and the movement of going side by side at the same time going up and down. I mean, there's a reason why they have those barf bags, because there were a lot of green people. I mean, it's yeah. So anyway, I digress. So good to see all of you. So getting back to this weekend, I finished a book, Gods of Eden, and finished that sucker in 2 days. I mean, just went right through it. And it's really odd, the synchronicity, right? We keep saying that, but it's becoming more and more commonplace where we should expect it as opposed to be unexpected when it happens. And it's fallen in line with much of the research that I've been doing. I still contend, ladies and gentlemen, that every species has the right to know its origins. I mean, that's not a far left, far right, conspiratorial, fringe thinking. It's kind of one of the most things that we would say would be a basic human right, is that we should know unequivocally, with no doubt, no ambiguity to it whatsoever, and know where our origin started. Think about it. I said this yesterday on Jeff's and my show, that when one, as a philosopher, you could even be a theologian. You could be an ideologue. But when you stop and consider that one thing, us not knowing, is the seed to all of our confusion. It's for the reason for all of our religions. It is the foundation of what most of us build our core perception of what reality is. And imagine, I was talking to my wife earlier, and I was saying, this is, and listen, I'm going down the same path most, if not all of us are on. Many before us have traversed, and many yet shall, if we're fortunate to be kept around. Now, every idea you and I get, regardless of how original it is, how unique it is, or maybe how mundane it is, it's built upon pieces of what we have collected. And most of us, this is how we begin to rebuild the construct. You say, okay, well, my religion didn't work. Again, how can all religions be wrong? And then again, how could all religions be right? It's the conundrum and the paradox, the ultimate mind coitus in one aspect. You think about it. But if we had, for instance, the animal kingdom, I would dare say that this would probably apply to the plant kingdom. They pass on that origin aspect of their species. They don't question it. They know it. It's not a burden to them. It's not elusive. So, where do we begin? Well, most of us, as I speak for myself on this, when you come out of the God spell, and for myself, when you begin to rebuild the pieces, you become even more diligent to search. You don't have the safety net underneath you anymore. Religion provides a very comfortable safety net for its followers and devotees. Why? Well, if you fall off the rope, well, the belief system is designed to provide a catch-all. And to avoid that, they tell you, study your book every day, and that's how the programming begins. But so I've been on this quest. Now, I know that there is something greater than man's concept of God. If man calls it a God, it's not a God. It's just that simple. And the book I just finished, although it was written in a fiction narrative, the story was engrossing because it has so much connection to so many other books. And oftentimes I have found that in fiction, sometimes much truth is derived. I mean, it's my opinion that the Bible, Quran, the Vedic, they were all written by man. And if written by man, subject to, how shall we say, being flawed. But yet the narrative, many times, it's set inside of a fiction format. It's because that's how we learn. That's how we see things. And again, I would say, for the most part, today's world has heard the garden story. Well, and for the longest time, it was not challenged. If you were a serf and lived, say, in the 1200s, you weren't concerned about where you came from. Life was hard. I mean, the life expectancy in the 1200s was, if you reached a 35 or 40, you were considered to be old. You didn't have much time to live. And the life you did live, if you were not royalty, was hard labor. And life was not, how shall we say, a Disneyland experience. The greatest thing that we have in the Western world today, modern man, is the fact that we do have our machines that now handle the greater and greater burden that we used to have to carry out on our backs. And that's afforded man to have much more idle time. Now, if you're not a disciplined mind, idle time is a destroyer. It's a booby trap. Because idle minds become just that, idle. And we all know what happens if you continue to idle. You're eventually going to shut down. There's no progress. And the thing that I counsel most people on, and when I read so much, is that they're trying desperately to find discipline of their mind. But it's, shaking free of all of those, self-made trap doors. And we're good at it. I mean, most of us, in the sense that as Homo sapiens, we're pranksters. We love we love playing games. I think the Elohim didn't like that too much. So here I am. I finished this book and I got these other books. Lynn is reading them now right behind me. And she kind of looks up and she says, the narrative, it's so replete in so many different authors. And it can only lead one, an intellectual, a free thinker, who's uninhibited by opinion, biased, or persuaded by those of what others think, can many times derive at those core moments of truth. And truth is not just one single thing. Truth is by nature fragmented. It's just the way it is. I think the truth crystal was fragmented way, way before we ever came onto the scene. And it begins to start the narrative. Now, y'all have been on this with me. You know the videos I've done. And I've come across some things that continually arise. And I contend, ladies and gentlemen, that for this show, that you're going to see by the slide that was made for this, it's my theory, I believe man inadvertently, I don't think by purpose, don't think so, broke the seal. And what do I mean by that? Well, as you know, I always put together a presentation to stimulate the mind. As I tell people, never doubt the stimulation of eccentricity, my friend. It will afford you the opportunity to see so much. So, all right. I think the first thing we have to do, excuse me, as he gets out of here, there we go, is to understand this. I think there's enough evidence to support the foundation of the existence of an extraterrestrial species that call themselves the Elohim. I think there's enough evidence of that. I think the Elohim is what every religion is worshiping. I really do. I can't see by their nature, they're so covetous, they're so jealous, we're going to get more into that, but they would not allow another religion to challenge their belief system. So it's easier to keep the human race docile and ignorant by thinking that you have the right God and the right theology. Now, there are other species out there. Some are greater than the Elohim. Some are lesser than the Elohim. I think you just have to accept that. Again, they planted, and this is all it is, folks. You would be surprised to realize how much we run on autopilot and how much you have to really do that inner work, that inside job, to start exposing this. It's just there. Now, it's important, I think, for many people to begin to expand, at least consider some species out there, they can, in fact, create life. Yes, life. That apparently has, once it's done, attaches to a substance, to what we may call the ether. And there seems to be a transference that takes place. Now, some species cannot. It seems to be a driven goal of most species, including Homo sapiens sapiens, to create life. Seems to be this driver that if your life has been created by one of these species, and this is how all species are created. Now, you can debate who may have been the first. I think it's irrelevant. We'll never find out. Because I think in one aspect we have our answer. We just don't like the answer. So, the B'nai Elohim, the sons of God. Now, in many faiths, these are the fallen angels. I don't agree with that. Again, this is when religion comes in and putrefies the truth, then the concoction that comes forth is going to stink no matter what. And I think this is what's happened here. Because if you buy the whole thing of fallen angels, then you are in the trap. Folks, it would be no different, and I'll use here in the United States, when our nation was in our Civil War back in the 1800s. It would have been no different had a Confederate group of soldiers gotten trapped behind the Yankees, the Union's lines. They would have been considered the fallen angels. Why? Well, because they're fighting against America. They're fighting against God. They're fighting against righteousness. Now, how did I arrive at 450,000 BCE? How did I arrive at that? Well, if you read books like Dr. Noah Kramer's book, Dr. Samuel Noah Kramer, the leading Sumerologist of the world, and you begin to read properly the cuneiform of the tablets, we know that their pantheons of their gods puts this time about approximately. I contend in my theory that this is when the Elohim arrived in this quadrant of space. I think it's when they were searching each solar system, looking for habitable planets. Habitable planets such as Earth are worth, commerce seems to be everywhere. Multi-species, wherever the universe, it seems to have a commonality. And if you own a solar system, and in your solar system, you have a habitable, or if you have habitables, planet that have resources, including bipedals, they are worth a great deal. I think the Elohim got here because of a war. I think they captured this planet. I think they captured the whole freaking quadrant of space. These are advanced species. They do not die. They can be killed. They do, in fact, manufacture or create life. They call themselves the seeders of life. This is what they do. When they find habitable planets, they themselves are not of the construct of building of such a point that they can physically do the work. They have actually, in many cases, they no longer actually inhabit bodies per se, but they are physical beings. Don't think that they're not. They're as physical as you are. Just because you can't see them, that's by design. But I believe that this species is, in fact, a war species. I think that their whole hierarchy of their belief systems, their own gods. Now, we inherited their belief systems. They programmed it into us. We had the early part, we didn't have a choice in this. And it was a far different world, too. This period of time, there were many, many versions of what they were working towards. Now, I think we read that in the pantheon of the Sumerians, in their folklore, in the pantheon of their gods, their belief systems. I have to say that, if we look at the book of the Magician of the Gods, we know that in Turkey, there was even an earlier sophisticated civilization. I contend, ladies and gentlemen, that this species know that nothing that they create can last. I contend, ladies and gentlemen, that it is stated in the Christian Bible, the Torah, in the Quran, in the Vedic, that they never stopped with the ADAMA. Now, I think there is evidence that would support the next hypothesis. They left in 1000 BCE. How do I come to that? Well, in Gabe's book, Edens of the God, in his story, this is when they found the Elohim skull next to Homo erectus, next to a Phoenician sailor. They found this in ruins in Zimbabwe. Now, there have been reports of star people, their remains being found. They apparently can live forever. Their cellular structure is all the same. It never stops. Ours is different. Ours degrade. Something happened. I think that there was another armada that came in. Now, where do I get my foundation on this? Well, go directly to your Bible. The last the Elohim, Yahweh, and I don't even think Yahweh is even around anymore. I really don't. But we know he left the temple. Says he took his glory and his kivob, got the hell out of town. I think, folks, that it's just my hypothesis on this, that they were attacked. Now, I don't know who. I don't know what. And it seems like in this attack, there were a number of the B'nai Elohim that were captured. And they were put into a place on earth. They were sealed in. Now, this story is played out in every one of the religions today in one form or another. Most people would be familiar with the book of Revelation. Revelation, not revelations. Only one. And this is where we have the story of the fallen angels. Now, I believe these bad mofos, which we call God, the Elohim, they're no friend of man. I think they came back. They arrived back in force in 1947, and I'll show you why. Now, they created Homo sapiens. They created Cro-Magnon. They created Homo sapiens sapiens. And even in the Bible, Genesis 2:5, it states blatantly, there was no man to till the ground. In the story of the Sumerians with the Anunnaki, Enki and his mother created the ADAMA, many versions, by the way, in their creation chamber. Why? For labor. We know through the archaeological digs in southeastern Africa, we have found the gold mines. Are you ready for this? That date back almost 450,000 years ago. Now, you see, people reject this because it slams them square in the face like a 2x4. You ever been hit in the nose? Hurts, don't it? But when you realize that you and I are nothing, we're not special, we're not God's apple of his eye, we were created for labors. And they had to continue to re-engineer each genus of homos. There was problems in all of them. There's problems in us. Our genetic code, as I speak, all of us, is degrading. And now, because we're hitting in the peak of cosmic rays due to the weakening and the shifting of our magnetic poles and the minimum, we're probably in the molar minimum of our sun, you and I today are being pelted with cosmic rays that 100 years ago, our ancestors were not exposed to this level. And guess what the side effects are of cosmic rays? Aging. We are all aging faster. Why? Code's breaking down. See, man sees himself as important. Truth is, man is not special. Man is not extraordinary. Man is a slave seeking a savior. All slaves seek a savior to relieve them of their burden. That's why the narrative fits so well. That's why most people buy it. Because life is hard. Nothing easy about it. From the moment we come into this death realm, birth would kill you. Only one time through, baby. No human could do an experience. If they simulated the birth experience, you're dead. You can't do it. And we cannot handle the fact that we are nothing more than slaves. But ladies and gentlemen, I contend to you, look at today's society. We're all slaves still. See, it's not about UFOs. It's not about aliens. You know what it's about? It's about domination of all the resources, energy, food. Those who dominate it, they are the gods, our gods. We're just so damn naive that we really think that there's some freaking dude sitting on some throne. Now, I want to show you something. Do your own research on this. Go and start looking at the skulls of the Cro-Magnon man. How many of you have already seen it? Why does Cro-Magnon man have a seal in his cranium? Some's a little bit more to the right, some a little bit to the left. Bet you didn't know that, did you? Yeah. Who marked them? They're marked, they're sealed. Sapiens don't have it. These are earlier sapiens. No seal, no indentation. Here's one of Sapien sapiens. Nothing. Now, it's been reported that these are potentially star children. I don't think so. I think that these may just be abnormalities. But a free-thinking mind never shuts the door to potential possibilities. Could be. What we do know, these are not. Some say that it was customs. We have found out that's not the truth in the way that they portray it. However, it's been long rumored the first pharaohs were the elongated. It is said that this is potentially the offspring of either the Nephilim or the direct descendants of the B'nai Elohim. The rulers. These creatures, this species, we see them as angels. We see them replete through man's memories. But yet, they are here. The evidence of something that was here. You see, this is why I think evolution doesn't have it quite right, neither does creation. We were never created by God. At least not in the concept that most people think. And it horrifies our species to think that we were nothing more than in a lab. But that's the evidence that would say that that would be the case. So we have these so-called angels. Now, I contend that they're Elohim. That's all they are. The Elohim are a very covetous species. They defend their territory. I think that if another species wants to come in, they have to basically make a contract. There's wealth, what we would call money, assets transferred. Yeah. You know, the universe is not this utopian where everything is free. Doesn't work that way, baby. Lots of evidence that it's commerce. And we see it replete with every one of us. Our birth certificates are nothing more than a cashier's check to the Elohim in charge, or those who have made a deal with them. We know that these have their own language, their own alphabet. Legends are replete in many different religions of these creatures. Folks, they're creatures. They're not wholly humans. They're not human. They're not homo anything. If anything, they're Elohim, or they are a creation of the Elohim and who the Elohim worship. It seems like who they worship, which we call God, needs the assistance of these so-called angels. Now, folklore has them as messengers. I get it. I know that. But nevertheless, they have certainly taken the time to build an identity, a personification, a job resume, a job description while they were here. It's said that there are some that are for the good guy, some that are said to be for the bad guy. The problem is, folks, there can't be a bad guy. There may be a civil war, if you want to say that, but the stories that I read about the Elohim, they're not like the Yahweh God. They apparently think much different. Now, they'll slay your ass in a second, but the way they do it, they have no blood on their hand. Lilith, I think of all of them, this is who the Elohim fear the most. Lilith. I think she's a warrior queen that no male Elohim dares to contend with. Those that have never come back. Now, your stories in the Bible, and there's many other in the Apocrypha, pseudo-Apocrypha Bible, of the books, that talk about how Michael and Raphael, I believe, were the one who challenged Lilith. They did not confront her. They turned their sorry butts back and headed away, hoping that she wasn't going to lay them waste. So, when we talk about the Elohim, the B'nai Elohim, we've got to get out of this mysticism and this superstition that these are angels. They're not. They're species. They have a whole different way, but that doesn't make it the only way. There are other species out there that are far more superior to the Elohim in grandeur, wisdom. I'm convinced that the Elohim are a bunch of punks, is what they are. They seem to be a warrior species that have a very bizarre way of looking at reality. And when you look at these names, look at them. Find one you want in here. Fallen angel, who is strong marquis of over 40 legions. Amadekicus, Amduskias. Name of the fallen angel who appears as a unicorn. Name of the fallen angel who is president in hell. What? Amy, did you get, they vote you in? But you see, everything that we have in our memory are because of this species. We got involved in something that we had no idea. And I think in many cases, even the Elohim were surprised at what we became. And then through the eons, the epochs, what was something that was probably, in fact, very true, now has fallen into this where it's really difficult to get in and get a true handle on this. I mean, there's so much folklore attached to this. But I can tell you this, if you look at it and you approach it, that these are aliens. That's all they are. They're aliens. They're an alien species. Now, they may have created us. I don't challenge that. But folks, That is not God. It's not some white dude, some Caucasian, some Aryan sitting on a throne with a big beard, white hair, has never combed it apparently, and got little angels walking around with the wings. Folks, if there wasn't but 3 votes at the Council of Nicene, all angels would not have had wings. All of the Renaissance painters, the medieval painters, would have never had any angel with wings. But I'll tell you, talk to people who've seen angels and they'll tell you they have wings. That's not God. Now, I don't know what the Elohim worship. Maybe it's this. Maybe what we have seen in the elite Elohim, the B'nai Elohim, maybe this is what they really are. Is that one talking to you? So, in the genetic experiments, again, take the religion folklore out of this. The Nephilim was nothing more than an experiment that went bad in the lab. And again, these Elohims apparently are not real smart. I mean, the thing about it is, people think God's got all knowledge, all wisdom. It's very evident if you read the story, he doesn't. Makes a lot of mistakes. Well, why would not his compadres do the same thing? And the folklore of the Nephilim is out there. We found the skeletons. We know they existed. They were us. They're in us. We still see it in the gene abnormally in the anomaly of gargantuism. The same thing that we have with dwarfism. That's the problem with our genetic code, ladies and gentlemen. They screwed it up. It's not stable. Never was. That's why our lifespan is so limited. They had to limit us because they knew that if we surpassed that which they limited us, we would come a-looking for them. They're scared of us. And you can begin to see the scale of what's happened here. Folks, we're nothing more than in a genetic petri dish. That's all we are. It's where we came from. We were integrated into a biomass, probably already existing. But when you're doing genetic grafting, you don't need a body. At least not at the beginning. And here's what I contend, folks. I think that there was a war that did, in fact, put these guys in a place where they couldn't do anything more. I don't know if they're good. I don't know if they're bad. But I do feel this is very certain. The first atomic bomb man exploded. Think about this. An atomic bomb, besides the radiation fallout, what is it? It's light. Intensified light that, folks, it had to have fractured the space-time continuum. Now, I did a program on this. Go back and watch it. What do you think the 2000 H-bombs, A-bombs have done that we've exploded underground? Ladies and gentlemen, if there was a prison that was put down there by an alien race, a species, I wonder how much, when you begin to look at the physics of this, exactly what it did do. You see, from there, I contend whatever got released, and now we're into this. What if there is yet another chamber that requires a different kind of light? See, I think the light was the lock. If they were in fact entombed, imprisoned, it would have had to been from another species, not the Elohim themselves. Unless there's this civil war, then, it would really piss us off as a species that we got put in the middle of this thing. And they try to say, what, they're going to hold us guilty? And the question that we have to ask, why was CERN dedicated to Kali? She's the god of death. She's also god of life. See, I think that there's something so much going on right now that it's a little hard for us to ascertain. And this is the one they want to now begin to build even bigger. What are we doing here? This has got something of alien species all over it. I mean, man, folks, you see, this is what they've got us trapped by. There's no reason for any human being on this planet to pay for energy of any kind. None. The earth is energy. These sons of bitches out there, the bankers, the politicians, the Vatican, the rest of them are all in it. And energy, it's about to get real cold up there in the Northeast and the upper Midwest. Could you imagine if you never had to pay for any energy? It wouldn't be any problem. You would have a self-sustained biosphere. That's what the ET story is about. That's what the cover-up is about. It's not about disclosure of the Elohim. It's the Elohim that dictated this. And you just think of the wealth that these a-holes have done to us. The bankers. I could just go right down to the energy company. They're all in it. Our politicians. To the very religious heads of this world. This is what cover-up is. And so the Elohim are a species, most likely creators of us. They're not angels. They are our gods. They are not the God. There's something even above the Elohim and their God. Remember, their God says, Yahweh, that he's a jealous, vengeful God. That's not my God. Yahweh can kiss my ass. I don't care who hears it. That's just the fact. The B'nai Elohim. Now I'm going to leave this with some thoughts. A new war, I believe, is now raging against the Elohim, the creators. I think this is in addition to the wars that this species is involved in many other planes, many other places. I think they're consolidating resources. But I'm telling you, the evidence would say that this species is under attack. And they have no love for us. I think as well, I think they're tired of us. We're a screw up. Then it's one that they can't fix. And the only way that they can fix it is what they've done in the past. Wiped us out. And that's exactly where I think it's heading to. You see, the B'nai Elohim did not stop with the ADAMA. I think they're still creating new ADAMAs. I think a lot of this is what we're hearing, and abductions, embryos being taken out of women, semen taken out of men. They're doing the same thing they've done all along. They're just doing it a little bit more clandestine to a degree. I think they're at that point where they don't care anymore. Now, I think that whoever is opposing them presents a problem. That's why I think we're still here. You see, this answers the question, why is it that God has never appeared before a large group of humanity at one time, ever? No God of any religion has ever manifested itself to a large group or even all of humanity, only to single persons, and sometimes not even two. Again, we get back in this whole thing. You got to begin to line out. If Lucifer exists, he's an Elohim. But the question becomes, maybe he's not. Where is it written that Lucifer is the enemy of man? Can't find it. Why would not God be able and want to manifest before all humanity? But this one hasn't. It is said that God puts his image into the minds of all humanity. Would not this bring harmony? And remember, even in the Bible, it says, let us make man. The story is there. It's not make-believe. And so I contend, again, when we look at this, I think I'm not the only one. I don't think so. I got a sense that I think maybe I just stumbled on it. I could be completely wrong, but something's going on here. We know it is. I often wonder if the Elohim is working with Silicon Valley. You know, the United States military no longer operate these private bases, the military bases of research. It's all now done by the Titans, the new Titans. But the old ones are still there. But I contend the technology that we have today is of the Elohim. And we're seeing the negative effects on it, what it's doing to our species. I contend that the Elohim are attacking us even now, and that their plan is to eliminate us. We have multiplied beyond anything that has any more control. It is beyond their ability to control us. And I think they now know that they can do even a better job at creating the next version, of which I'm convinced they're well on their way. And I contend that the CEOs of many of these companies are in direct league with the Elohim. I believe that they have made compacts and contracts. I think as well they've been allowed to have technology that has been repressed from the masses on planet Earth. I contend as well that the Elohim has suppressed technology that has deliberately regressed us and made us more dependent. That is my thesis. So there we go. I think we should look at this. You know, it's voices like mine, voices like yours, that where we can come together, we can convene and not be ripping each other apart, not seeking division, but looking at this, weighing every thought idea. We have to begin to do out-of-box thinking here. The current thinking is flawed. It's not resulting in the results that we desperately need. And everything that I see, everything in our banking system, in our political system, every system is dominant. It's enslavement. There's nothing free that I find in any of it today. None. And it's getting worse. The dystopian society is here. Our history shows us, time after time, the tyrants come in. When the systems collapse, and when they have to gain control of the masses, it's the free thinkers that go first. Just remember that. All right, folks. Woo! What a subject today, huh? Yeah. But come up with a different idea of your own. I often say people who want to contend, go and do your own PowerPoint. Go and do and make a presentation where you can lay out your thoughts to where others can watch. Start your channel. Put your ideas out there. These are just mine. I've got so many more books that I've just ordered that we're going to continue. We're going to continue to look at this. But I think that as we begin to see some of the components that begin to fit, now our board may be like a disk. It may have 64 parsecs to it. And maybe we have, parsec 41. And we still have a lot more to collect. But the fact is that we have one is enough. Okay. I love y'all. Y'all are the best. Join us tonight with Dr. Albers, the physicist and physician. Always an exciting hour to listen to Dr. Albers' new theories and her thoughts and her papers. Tomorrow, Patrick will be back on with Talking with the Planets. I'm excited about that. Our friend is well, and that's going to be excited. Got Doc Ram coming on Friday night. We've got other people. I've got, Darla, I've got a number of people. I think February is going to be a really full month. And so we're going to continue to grow. I hope that this was helpful. Only got 4 thumbs down. That's cool. And when we just give him a big old hug, hey, Brian, how you doing, my friend? And we just speak favor over him. I'm telling you, it's greater than love in the aspect. As I was telling Jeff yesterday, you look at the word love, it becomes so ambiguous. What do you mean? What kind of love? In today's society, with the Me Too thing, no. But if you speak favor, I mean, what's the blowback? He spoke favor over me. What's the problem with that? Well, what do you say? I mean, favor is favor. And Brian, you say you got a good lineup. Is that tonight? All right, folks. Well, just think about it, man. Write me your comments. Write me your thoughts. I spent time in building my case, and I've got freaking books all around this office, but that all seem to be saying the same thing, just in a different language. That's all. All right, folks, be good to yourself. We'll see you tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow on Talking with the Planets. Be good to yourself. Love yourself, folks. Don't do what most of us have done. Spending decades ridiculing ourselves, putting ourselves down, thinking low of ourselves, we're not good enough. You are good enough. That's just it. And you never have to do that again. No matter how long you're here, you're going to eventually leave, and you're going to leave within your own thoughts. Love yourself, because when that moment comes, that's only going to be the thing comforting you. It's the love that you surround yourself with. All right, folks, be good. I'll see you later on. All right, bye-bye.